Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from here in North Wales. I've come to a location today that is right on my doorstep. I know I typically enjoy going out to Snowdonia, but there is a particular area of outstanding natural beauty here in North Wales called the Clwydian Range, or Bryniau Clwyd as it's known in Welsh. I've come out today with zero expectation for landscape photography. It's going to be a little bit of a theme in this video. Now, a big reason that I've been coming out with no expectation of getting any photos is because photography hasn't always been the primary reason for me going out. Now, I take my camera with me everywhere just because, well, you never know. But a big thing for me this summer is I've wanted to try and get a bit more connected and a bit more in tune with my surroundings when I'm out in the field. And I want to get better at IDing, you know, whether it's trees or wildlife, flowers. And I think to do that, I have to be a little bit more present, and I don't always necessarily need to be hunting for compositions. I need to really be taking the time to observe what it is that I'm looking at. Now, here's a good example. I know that this is a hazel tree, and hazel trees grow wild hazels, which are also referred to as cobnuts. These are the little things that you can look out for on your walks, on your hikes, and if you've got your camera with you, then that's just a bonus and you might get some nice photos. But I definitely believe that it's important to try and take the time to learn about your surroundings. I mean, people like Simon Baxter or Simon Booth, these guys are just absolute inspirations. They are so well versed and knowledgeable about the landscape, and that's just something that I want to aspire to. I want to practice being a little bit more receptive to my surroundings, and sometimes if you go out with too much of a rigid idea of what you want to photograph, it can lead to you feeling quite disappointed, and that's something that I've talked about on this channel in the past. But I think the first thing that has really caught my attention today is the rowan berries on the rowan trees. I think especially at this time of year where everything is quite green, when you get that striking colour contrast of red against the green leaves, it just always makes for really lovely photos. And I've only been walking for, you know, about 15 minutes or so, and I've already seen so many great examples of that. So I think colour is going to play a big part in today's photography, and as I mentioned, I'm coming out with zero expectation for photography, but I am being mindful as I go on this walk of things or, you know, themes that are catching my eye. Now, we've already talked about the rowan berries and that nice colour contrast between red and green that's just so great at this time of year, but it's also the middle of August, it's heather season. I know there is going to be heather on this trail, and this rosebay willow herb, or fireweed as it's known in the USA, the colour that you get on the rosebay willow herb, this lovely sort of like magenta-y purple, is also going to be something that I pick up when I start looking for heather compositions, and then I'm more likely to come away with a collection of photos that cohesively are going to work quite well together. Now, I've done a video on this channel in the past about triptych photography, which is all about creating 3 photos that work in harmony with each other. I'll put a link to that up here so you can go and check that out. But I'm definitely a big fan of creating little mini portfolios whenever I'm out on a walk, even if it's just a casual little hike. Now, one of my favourite aspects of walks in the Clwydian Range are these expansive views over the rolling countryside of North Wales. You can see right the way over to Ruthin and Denbigh into Denbighshire, and you've got Eryri and, you know, the peaks of the national park over to the right. You just can't beat it. You get so much variety when coming on walks in this area. So, walking up the trail, I found my first example of some heather. I saw plenty on the drive on the way up. You can see it all over the hills around here, but this is the first opportunity to get really up close and to see the sort of quality of it. And you can definitely tell that it's very much at its peak. It's even starting to turn now. So I'm definitely hopeful that as we get further up, we're going to see a few patches where we can get some nice compositions. And if you live in North Wales, it's definitely worth mentioning that you don't need to go all the way to places like the Peak District to get good landscape photos, including heather. It's just a little bit trickier to find around here, and obviously in the Peak District you're going to get tons of interesting opportunities for compositions because of all the interesting rock formations. And having said that, guess where I'm going tomorrow? That's right, the Peak District. So there might be some photography in next week's video from the Peak District, but for today I'm going to carry on going up this trail. And I'm going to get kick-started with some heather photography. So I think it's definitely important to come out without photographic expectations, but giving yourself the best opportunity to get photos is definitely something that I'm a big advocate of. So I've come to a place called Clwydian today. It's basically a walk up to the top of a hill. Now, many of the hills and mountains in the Clwydian Range are old Iron or Bronze Age hill forts. So Clwydian, translated into English, means head of the trenches, and this particular peak here and this trench that I'm in is the largest and best example of these Iron Age hill forts here in the Clwydian Range. As I mentioned earlier, most of the peaks in the Clwydian area are examples of Iron Age settlements. Arguably, the most famous peak around here is Moel Famau, and it's right on the fringes of Flintshire and the English border. So for people who want to get a taste of North Wales, who aren't from the area, it's a really accessible place to start their journey. But I think going slightly deeper into the Clwydian Range gives you far more photographic opportunities and gets you off the beaten track into places where you're more likely to find original compositions, and that's why I've come to Clwydian today. Now, don't get me wrong, Eryri National Park still holds a very, very special place in my heart. I love it for landscape photography, but the terrain and the landscape in Eryri is very different to the Clwydian Range. The Clwydian Range is an area of outstanding natural beauty, and the landscape here is far more undulating. You have more heathland and moorland. That's why you get so much great heather here at this time of year, whereas Eryri is definitely a bit more rugged. The mountains are more jaggedy. Just think of Tryfan and some of the Carneddau peaks, the lakes, the waterfalls. You're not going to get that type of landscape around here, but that doesn't mean that this isn't a place worth visiting. Arguably, I think that's what makes this place worth visiting more than anywhere else, because it's, photographically speaking, slightly more untouched. So definitely zero expectation when it comes to photography today, because really that hasn't been the whole purpose for coming out. It's just been awful weather this last couple of weeks. I've been wanting to get out with the camera, and it's just been rain day after day, and I've just been really busy with work. There's tons of excuses that I could use for not coming out, but the main reason that I wanted to come out today is just to have a walk in this beautiful area and to bring you guys along with me. I know there are some things here that are interesting, whether it's talking about some of the wildlife and some of the ecology, as I did earlier, just telling you about the history of this place, because again, that's something that I find quite interesting. It helps me get that connection to the landscape that I'm hoping to photograph. And it's just always important to come out at the times of day that don't always give you the best results photographically. I mean, we're doing this walk at, in the middle of the day where the light isn't great. There's, clouds and mist rolling in, the light is quite flat, so it's definitely not the best time to be here. If you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm just a big advocate of going out with the camera, regardless of whether you get the photos you want or not, because I think if you just keep practicing that and you keep revisiting locations and you keep hitting that shutter button, it just gives you the best possible chance of getting the shot when the time comes, because you're going to be so in tune with your camera and you're going to be very well versed in how to get those compositions and how to frame things and how to work, you know, really quickly. So that's kind of what I'm doing today. I don't know if I'm going to get any decent photos. There are tons of, like I said, things of interest around here, so even if they're just snapshots, I still think there's a lot of merit in taking them and showing them in this video. And if you have enjoyed the videos that I've shared so far, then do leave a comment down below. Let me know which ones you enjoy. I'm going to take a breather now. We're at the top at the cairn, and then yeah, we'll wander back down, and if there's any more photos to be had, I will put them on screen and talk you through any points of interest. There are two main characteristics of the Clwydian Range when I think of them. The first is a lot of pine forests. They often cover a lot of the slopes and the bases of a lot of the mountains in this range, and it's often populated quite densely with heathland. Now they provide two great habitats. In the pine forest you often see evidence of woodpeckers, and looking on the pine trees here there's definitely evidence of some woodpecker activity. You hear a lot of cuckoos. I've heard a couple this year, not seen one yet, but there's definitely evidence of their activity in these trees. And with it being heathland, especially on this trail where you've got sort of heathland on one side of the track and then pine forest on the other, you've also got birds like stonechats, which are absolutely beautiful. I love stonechats, and you can hear or identify their call because their call is basically mirroring their name. So the call of a stonechat sounds like two stones being bashed together. So quite interesting. These are the little things that I'm trying to be a little bit more aware of when I'm going on walks like this. So I've made it to the end of the trail following my walk up Pen Clwydian, a really lovely summit with some great views. I hope you enjoyed some of the photography and some of my ramblings about some of the wildlife and ecology that I found along the way. I definitely think it's important that I show you some of the areas of North Wales that are slightly more off the beaten track. They're the areas that are very close to me because they are pretty much on my doorstep. This is what I would consider to be my local area. So if you have enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more from this location and from some of the surrounding hills, then do leave me a comment down below. If you haven't, do consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell so you can get notified of when new videos go live. And if you don't know already, new videos go up every Thursday at around 5 PM. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week for another video.